In this episode, my friend Jamie is with us today, and he shares his experience with the infinite banking concept and some of the opportunities that he's had the privilege of taking advantage of over the last several years. I've had fun, and I hope you enjoy listening.
Yeah, I kept that. Let's see, well, that tract of land, I actually bought another piece of equipment. I bought a backhoe, Caterpillar, 430E backhoe. It was a big piece of equipment, and by using, or knowing people that was kind of in the heavy equipment industry, I was able to use someone that I personally knew that had a degree in, as far as working on that stuff, and he told me this was a good piece of equipment that I was particularly looking at, and he gave me the guy's number. He said he's looking to get out from under it, and wanted to know if I was interested in purchasing it. And I was like, well, let's go look at it. And he actually drove me to the guy's house and was like, here, I know this guy personally, and he's going to shoot you straight. So I looked at it, and I was, seemed like a good piece of equipment to buy, and I knew that I needed a piece to fix up that land over there. So I said, man, let me buy this piece, and went over there, fixed up all the roads and graded. You have to put turnouts on roads that have a good bit of slope on it to keep the gravel from washing off of them and creating huge ruts and stuff. So I had just a little bit of knowledge on how to do some of that stuff. I've seen it done before, and I was like, well, I know I can do it too. So I took that piece of equipment and improved the property, put up some gates front and back, and just to keep folks from, coming in and out, since I didn't live right there beside it, to keep an eye on it. And it served me well, that piece of equipment. I didn't really want to sell it when I sold it, but after owning that property for a year, I resold it, and I made fairly well off of it. And of course, that leads into buying maybe another policy or whatever I want to do with it. But at the time, I was like, well, instead of doing that, I went ahead and me and the family, we've been talking about putting in a pool and all that. So while I had young kids, I wanted to go ahead and do something that would create memories. And our kids and my wife, they would always look for other places to go, bother some of their friends that had pools and things. And I was like, well, we live way out here in the middle of nowhere, and why not just put a pool out here so we don't have to travel as far to go to a pool? So we put a pool in off of that, what I made off of that property of just owning it. Did you use a backhoe? Yeah, I didn't use it to dig the pool, but okay. I could have, I guess, if I knew how to do that. But I wanted that to be right. Sure. For sure. But yeah.
So you financed the pool? Is that, or just bought the pool, whatever?
Yeah, I bought the pool straight out.
So your family now doesn't have to travel to swim?
That's true.
And so your life improved?
It did. Comfort? Happy wife, happy life,
yeah, whatever. Right.
Yeah, the kids and the wife, they wear that pool out, man. It's been a good addition to the family. So,
have you been in it this year?
This year I haven't. The kids have already been in it, but I haven't.
I've been in mine for like 3 weeks now.
Yeah. Well, coming over here, the temperatures are a good 15 degrees warmer here than they are back home.
It hit 98 yesterday here in Fort Worth area, right? But all right, so then, so you got a pool, you're enjoying it, and you're about, listen, you're just, this is awesome to me, right? It's and I hear stories all the time from clients, and, they're cool, they're unique, they're obviously individual opportunities, but how much did the access to capital that you had, how much did that, how much would you have done without having these high cash values? Would you have done some of it, all of it, maybe not, or you'd have done another way?
No, it's opened the door for a lot more opportunities in my life, and to serve me well over a longer period of time. You can't really put a value on having access to capital the way I have access to capital.
Yeah.
It's changed my whole outlook on finances, and
then you're a relatively young man. Let's see, the condo in Florida, the raw land, and that man was practicing capitalism, and the unseen hand of capitalism. If you practice capitalism, you can't help but make other people profitable that you had no intention, to make profitable. But he's doing what he's doing. He needed the capital to go buy the bigger deal and what have you. And then there you are, you got the land. And did you make a profit or a deal on the backhoe, when you sold it? Did you make a profit on that? It's really none of my business. I'm just asking.
Let me go back to the raw land. What made that deal even more special was the land had somewhat of had a large amount of gravel on it. Mm-hmm. So the gravel that I fixed all these roads up inside of it to add value, it come from the land itself.
Did you know that when you bought the land?
Yes, I saw that when we rode through and looked at the land. I saw I had all the gravel I would ever need to make it look better. I just needed a piece of equipment to actually do the work.
I got you. So that's why you bought the equipment, to do the turnout in the roads. And
and it was a no-brainer at that point once he told me the price. And I said, man, I got to jump on this deal. These deals don't come along very often.
Right.
So
they might not come along very often, but being a relatively young man, those are not the last deals you're going to, have the opportunity to bet.
That's true.
So the condo, and then the property that had its own gravel pit on it or whatever. And then the pool, or then the backhoe. Did you make a profit on the backhoe, can I ask?
Yes. Actually, I sold the backhoe for several thousand more than I purchased it, but I had improved the backhoe while I had it. I fixed a lot of leaks, a lot of things that it needed to be done on it. I mean, it ran okay, but it still needed. And I did put a little bit of money into the backhoe when I had it, but it was a clean piece of equipment that wasn't beat up. So, but it was really, really dirty when I purchased it. And I've been, all the years, I pay attention to details with equipment, and I've owned several different types of tractors, cab tractors and this and that, but I know that when I see something that I can get it up to my standard, that nobody cleans windows, the seals on the windows and all that stuff in cab tractor stuff that's supposed to be dirty is dirty. I mean, you don't see people waxing a tractor, or so to speak.
But you was?
I'll clean them up to the point where they almost look new again.
Yeah.
And I take the time and do it, which, that's just something I enjoy doing. But and that backhoe, man, I put a little bit of love into it, and really made it look presentable and look like something. Yeah. But I sold it to my brother, one of my brother-in-laws. That he has a farm, and he does a lot of, he has a lot of beaver dams in some low-lying areas that are around the river. He's got a kind of a place that's on the river, but he needed a backhoe, and he wasn't scared to buy my backhoe for my price because he knew it was a good piece of equipment.
Right.
Because he's been, over the years, I'm not going to go into it, but he's bought some bad pieces of equipment that just didn't serve him well, and he spent a lot of money getting them fixed after he had purchased. Yeah. But he knew that I had a quality piece of equipment, and I wouldn't sell him something. He trusted me, so to speak. But yeah, I did. I made some money on the backhoe, and it just one deal fell in. It kind of followed the next deal, and it sort of seemed like a lot was going on with that same year. And I even purchased a car, that had a blown up engine in it, and I had a few connections to where a guy that does good work in this particular type of car, he worked on imported cars, and this was a Toyota, and it had a blown up engine. It was a good car, and I bought another used engine, and this guy put it in, and well, my my nephew bought it for a work car. He wasn't scared to buy it. He knew that I'd put the time, effort, and energy and vetting the car, knowing it's a good car. I mean, I drove the car a few times and made sure it was good, and I said I wouldn't be scared to buy it, and I had to cut him a deal, but I still made some money on it. I don't know, just things like that sort of fell in my lap all within a year or two of each other, and seemed to serve me well. And maybe I found my niche in life. I don't know.
Well, how long after you started the Infinite Bank Concept, paying high premium, high cash value life insurance, did these things occur?
Let's see. I had been paying premiums probably for a good 2.5, 3 years before really the first major deal come along that I actually had enough capital, cash value in place to actually purchase, make my first deal, I guess.
I got you. So how long a time period from, starting the Infinite Bank Concept, doing the deals that you've done, and to now, what kind of time period has that been?
I got my first policy in January of 2019.
2019. Okay, and here we are in 2023. So, pretty short succession there, right there.
Right. And yeah, I feel like I'm just getting started. I feel like I'm still learning a lot, and that's something I think I'm going to have to continue doing, is just learning and going to these live client-only events. I mean, speaking to people that's been doing it for 5, 6, 8 years longer than I have, or even 2 years longer than I have, and seeing how they use it, and how creative is the next person, and that's what it's kind of about, is learning from others and how they implement it in their life, and just that's priceless.
Yeah. I wonder how many of them know how to drive a backhoe. Maybe half of them. I don't know. It's like, well, what happened? Surely you've thought, maybe had the thought that, what happens if the next big condo or 260 something acre property doesn't come along? What are you going to do then?
Right.
You ever thought of that?
Yeah. I guess I'll just watch my cash values continue to grow.
So they're going to be okay regardless, huh?
Right. It's not going to make or break me. Those are just deals that's just been icing on the cake, so to speak.
I love that. I mean, you're not going to quit driving and buying cars, and
that's true.
Nor is your wife or your children. They're probably going to drive cars, all right?
Right.
So, I mean, you're financing big things anyway. We're all financing something, or several things or what have you. But the more capital you have available, specifically in the Infinite Bank Concept, the more cash values you have available to collateralize, you can do larger things, right?
Right. It just...
Which means you could either lose more money or, make more money.
Yeah. And the more you put into premium, the more, the better it's going to work out for you, because, your 401k is just your 401k. It's not really what the number says it is, because it's so many things attached to it. Like, it's almost like a ball and chain. And, right the opposite of high premium cash value life insurance. That's kind of that key to the ball and chain to get it off of you.
Oh man, I like that.
So that's the way I look at it, is just it unlocks so many opportunities that you wouldn't necessarily have had. But you have to open your mind to accept what it is and how it works, and just take a good look at it, not to overlook the major part that it plays in your life. Not just, take it seriously and do the best you can with it. And you need to be disciplined all along the way. I mean, that's really the key to anything, is discipline.
Have you, and I agree with that. Have you experienced, like when we all start, I mean, in my case, even as a life insurance agent, when I discovered this and met Nelson, I restructured, what little life insurance I had. And I'm looking at these premiums, an illustration that's going out for a long time period. And, you look at that and wonders, like, wow, how am I going to pay? Where am I going to get all this money in the future? And, the future is unknown. And I literally didn't know after I purchased, I don't know, 5 or 6 policies. Literally, my wife looked at me and asked me, where are we going to get the money? And I'm like, I don't know. Which made her angry, and she can punch like a mule kick. So I'm telling you, but, so I'm just saying that, on the front end, have you experienced the fact that paying premiums, scheduled premiums, and I'm not saying paying a premium is easy all the time. I'm not saying that, but has that done anything for you as far as, I know I'm going to pay a premium and I've got to do something to make that premium, available so I can pay the premium. Has that helped you in any, like the discipline, right, that you mentioned? Has that helped you in your discipline, just being like, I've got a path and I'm intentionally going to pay these premiums, on purpose? Has that helped you solidify your discipline or create more discipline? And I think discipline is something that I don't have enough of, and we could probably all use a little more. I don't know, but
for sure, it's really made me look at myself and really self-identify what are my strong points, what are my weak points. It's helped me actually dig a little deeper, get more creative. And I think those deals that come along that were for sure home runs, if I hadn't have been paying premium, of course I wouldn't have had the cash value, but if I hadn't have been paying premiums, then I, may have looked at those deals a lot different, because once you know that you're going to have a premium payment coming up, if you don't have the money in place, then you have to be creative. You have to figure out, how am I going to pay it? And whether I've found deals and, bought and resold stuff, I've always, found a way to pay the premium. So it's helped me figure out who I really was at the core, and how my discipline, how I really handled the pressure and the disciplines and all the things that could create, a successful long-term life, I guess, so to speak.
And do you think that's been beneficial for you, to have that self-introspection and
Oh, for sure. It's gonna, having all those things in place, I think the outcome will be that living a life worth living, and then leaving a legacy. All those things are going to fall in place long term, and that was the vision. Kind of how my dad had his situation set up, and that it kind of, my dad, if I could be as half as good as, honest and strong-minded as my dad was, then, he was a great father, husband, all the above. And if I could be half as good as he was, then it was a successful life for me, the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. And very powerful too. I wonder how many people that have 401ks, the 401k or whatever particular investment causes this introspection, this self-examination. I just wonder how many people that are contributing to a 401k through payroll deduction, so it's painless, that causes for them to examine, their discipline and their just the self-reflection that you've described. I'm like, nobody. I could be wrong. I don't, it's like, that's powerful. But it does cost. Because you're making a commitment, right? The premium is a commitment, right? And you can get mad and quit. And then you would know how much cash value that you could walk away with whenever you did that, or how much, money you could borrow against cash value at any point in time in the future. But, man, the discipline that it takes to fulfill those commitments, and when the future is unknown, that's pretty dang powerful when you think about it.
It is. The guys I work with, their mindsets are a little different, and because I think a lot of them, and I've enjoyed working with them all these years, and I try to explain this to them and how it works for me, and not necessarily telling them what to do, but I just try to share with them what I do and how it's improved my life, and it's going to answer all the questions everyone always asks themselves. Like, how am I going to retire? I don't see this 401k. It's just not growing. I'm contributing, and it's just nothing's happening. Oh, I lost money. Oh, it's just always something that's it haunts them. It hounds them. That probably keeps them awake at night, because they thinking they're going to have to work till they're 100 or 80 or 90, 60, 70, whatever it is, whatever their number is. And this, I'm like, I don't really care what the 401k is doing, really. My situation's so different than their situation. I don't know. It's just like you have to look at what everyone else is doing, and I feel like if you just do the opposite, it works out better.
A contrarian viewpoint goes a long ways, right? Yeah. Well, and to be clear, you could borrow against your 401k if you have a 401k. And the plan document allows you can borrow up to $50,000 a year, or 50% of the value, whichever is smaller. So if you have a 401k, could you have taken advantage of the deals that you did take advantage of on the timing that you did?
No, not. I probably could have.
You could have went straight to the bank, right, and just borrowed as much as possible and leveraged everything else you had too.
Right, that's true, but it's the 401k. Yes, you could borrow against it, but it still doesn't create the flexibility that you might need in case of a bad time.
Oh, you mean the loan repayment is required over a 5-year time period with a set interest rate, so you're not even really controlling the loan repayment?
Right.
As an example.
And that's kind of how you have to look at it, is how much is this going to cost me over a longer period of time, and them forcing you to pay it back when they say pay it back.
Yeah.
And it comes back to control. And when you don't have control of your finances, things could get ugly awful quick. So,
and talk about being driven, staying up at night, and having this, monkey on your back, or this claw, it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And
that may, for me being a blue collar worker, for me to look at, all right, do I want to borrow against my 401k when each week I get paid, that certain percentage is coming off the top of what my check's going to reflect. And, you know, that's going to make me have to go work an extra 10 hours this week or whatever to still break, you know, to still make that certain amount that I need to make that I would have made without this loan.
Yeah.
So, you know, it makes you work a lot harder and a lot longer.
Yeah.
It's just a ball and chain that's going to hold you back.
Yeah. I like what you said. It could be the key to unlocking that ball and chain, you know. The dividend paying whole life insurance issued by a mutual company is what we're expressly speaking about, right? So we're not talking about universal life, we're not talking about term life and invested difference. You know, we're not talking about all of those other things out there that people promote. You know, we're talking about dividend paying whole life insurance issued by a mutual company, structured, you know, appropriately for the individual and the family, without sacrificing the death benefit. I mean, so that's what we're talking about. And, you know, to learn more, if you wish, it would do you well to find and purchase Nelson Nash's first book, Becoming Your Own Banker, and his second book, Building Your Warehouse of Wealth. So I just want to throw that in there because we're talking about life insurance, but only the true listeners are going to be here at about the hour mark, you know. But I just want to throw that out there. So it's helped kind of in the I say discipline, but the self-reflection as far as paying premiums and, you know, and talking about working, repaying a 401k loan. I mean, you have to be active and aware managing outstanding policy loans too. I mean, have you ever, you know, had to feel like you've had to go work an extra 10 hours to make a policy loan repayment?
No, I've never felt like I had to, but you know, it's still on my mind that's still an outstanding payment that needs to be paid, because you need to always repay your debts no matter what, whether it's third party lender or yourself or whatever. So I think you have to be disciplined enough to, for sure, always repay your loans, and it'll serve you well over time, because you don't want those loans to compound out of control and become a problem in the future, or and that goes back to all the principles that Nelson spoke about, as far as you controlling your banking function, and you don't want to control a banking function. You don't want to lose control of a banking function, you know, this could better serve you well versus bring you down.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, it could go wrong. You know, practicing the infinite banking concept could go wrong. You know, just be afraid to capitalize, over-capitalize, right? Maybe, you know, you're being encouraged to pay too much premium. You know, that can happen, right? Don't repay your loans, right? Lower your premium and don't make loan repayments. And I should put in there, lower your premium, collateralize all the cash value that you possibly can to go, you know, be like Jamie and, you know, buy a condo or whatever. And then that doesn't go well, unlike Jamie's deals. And then don't repay your loans. I mean, yeah, it could go bad. There's no question. So if there's no discipline to consistently, methodically, logically, on purpose, with intent to pay an appropriate premium for you, and then if there's no discipline to make loan repayments, if there's no discipline in properly vetting what you might borrow against the cash values to quote unquote invest in, you know, I mean, it takes discipline, right? But it takes effort, time, effort, and energy on your part. It's completely opposite than the 401k or, you know, paying a contribution or putting money in an investment and then relying on the investment return. You know, there's like a separation of control, right? So I'm just saying that It could go wrong, but it can go very right too if you have appropriate premium amounts, properly structured policies, you have the discipline and the commitment to make the premiums, make the loan repayments, and not be lazy with money. You know, I mean, you vetted the condo deal, you vetted the raw land deal. I mean, so you're practicing, in my opinion, your God-given abilities and talents. And so the combination of that, right? Your God-given abilities and talents, discipline and vetting and the proper structure of policies and then, being around the people like Michael Fleet, y'all have connected, he's doing it so y'all can share with each other. I mean, man, it's like, that's pretty dang powerful. You go to an investment conference somewhere and you meet two people that are doing, 401ks. They might get along, but do you think that they're talking about what they're doing with their 401k and blah, 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 at the same extent as going to a room full of people that practice the infinite banking concept, meeting them across the country and sharing? Because I know he does real estate. And I mean, he's been on here at least once as a guest, Michael Fleet, and a great guy. I mean, so does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a different relationship, your mindset with the 401k versus this, it's night and day. There's really no similarities.
And the 401k may, better suit someone who doesn't want to do anything but put money somewhere with people that they like and trust, and perfect. An outside of the box thinker with the discipline and the drive to go practice capitalism. This may be worth looking at,
Sure. I mean, it's just, you can't hope for in the future your 401k is going to be enough. Yeah. Hope can't be a game plan.
No. So
you just definitely need to know what your game plan is by contract. It's just like a contract on your house. For sure when you get it paid for, it's your house, but you still have property taxes. You still have things that are going to, pull at you, but it's still, you've controlled that situation the best you could. And this contract on the life insurance policy, it's a for sure deal. I mean, it is what it is, but it's not going to be taxed in the future. You don't have all these things that are going to pull at you once you reach retirement. I mean, once you reach retirement, it's going to be more of a passive income than anything. It's going to be even more powerful than you expected because you're not getting taxed. It's tax-free money.
Has this, did you say over the last 5 years, that was 2019, is that what you said? Okay. Has it, and I know you don't know, none of us know what we don't know, and we sure don't know at the beginning of, participating in the infinite banking concept, going through the process of, vetting it and discussing it within your household and your family and making a decision to implement it, who you're going to implement it with, how you're going to do it. And, going through all that, you don't know, you can't know, the next 5 years, right? Or 4 years. What, has it turned out, better than you thought, about like you had hoped, or, how's the result, compared to from right now in your experience and compared to, starting out, your expectations, what?
It's exceeded my expectations, because it's so powerful in so many different ways that you just can't really explain it. It's like I said, it's value on the pages that aren't seen. You just have to use it and look at it for what it is to see the value. It's a big deal. It's something someone needs to vet and see if it could potentially work in their lifestyle. I think I can't think of a situation to where it couldn't benefit everybody, as long as they have the discipline and go by the rules that are laid out, to become your own banker, and then see it through all the way to the finish line. I mean, it's simple. As long as you have a practitioner in place that is a knowledgeable individual that's gonna do everything they can to keep you on track. I mean, that's what you're there for, is to ask the questions and to learn from. And James and his team is fantastic. They answer the phone. His team is great.
I appreciate your kind words. I really do. And we do answer our phone, and we make our return calls. We're here for our clients. We're just a small part of that, right? But it boils down to the individual's discipline, their vetting, proper vetting, discipline, application. And, we all get off, liable to run in the ditch as we go forward. And it is okay to have a knowledgeable practitioner that, I'm like off in the ditch over here, or people like Mr. Fleet, it's like, that's a big deal, because we all need a little guidance along the way. No question about that. So I appreciate you saying that. So we're going somewhere about an hour. Is there any, additional comments or things you want to share? Maybe might have left out or top loose ends. I mean, look, he's a quiet guy, but if you've listened to him and what he said and what I've heard, he pays attention to details, right? And he's not willy-nilly doing anything. He didn't just wake up one day and go decide to pay a big old life insurance premium. You didn't just wake up one day and go, oh, this is a great real estate. I mean, the man has done his due diligence in the things that he puts his hand to. So I'm just saying he's a quiet guy, and there's a lot here that maybe you might read between some of the lines. I don't know, but he's very clear in what he says too. But it's extremely powerful to me that you're quote unquote investing or participating in things that you know something about. Now think of that. You have capital accumulated in an appropriate way for you, the policy structure, premium, and all that, and you've done the vetting to even get to that point. And then taking that capital by guaranteed contract collaterally and going and putting it to work under your control into something that you know something about. I mean, and you compare that to the typical Wall Street investment guru, quote unquote, opportunities. Here, I'm going to create an opportunity, quote unquote, and it's going to attract your capital. It's backwards, right? Then creating the capital, and then the capital is attracting the opportunity. And you said it too. And, you look at things a little differently.
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely a worth pursuing. It's something that'll be worth your while. I think if you vet it properly and look at what it could do for you, it's definitely something that's worth, at least if it don't work out for you, then you just forget it. But I think most people that your blue collar, hard working people that need something more than just 401k, and once they realize that, this is definitely the tool for them. I think, because I don't know about most people, but for me, the harder I work, the more motivated I am to do something with it so that it can help me down the road.
Yep.
And I think once you learn about the world and how the world's constructed against you, I think it becomes more apparent that the life insurance and how this is constructed for you and how you can use it, it becomes a no-brainer.
I agree. I mean, the harder I looked, the better it got.
Yeah, and you try to look at it and prove it wrong, but you just once you start doing it, you can't see. You don't know what you don't know, and I've heard you say it before. It's okay to be ignorant, but it's not okay to remain ignorant. And those little small things, sayings, what have you, like that, are pretty powerful in themselves if you start looking at what you're saying. I mean, there's definitely something to this.
Yeah. Before we turn the lights and camera on, we talked a little bit about Jim Rohn. He didn't even come up in our conversation when the lights are on, But you've been a fan or a student of Jim Rohn as well, and I didn't know that until, today, and it's had an impact on my life. For
sure. That's where it all kind of took me, like a mental evaluation, like, hey, what are you doing? Wake up, whatever, and just start listening to stuff like that, and it just really took my life by storm, so to speak. As far as in finances is where it really started pushing me towards. It was, man, I need to put my money to work. I need to do something with it, so that I need to get out of this rut, this routine I'm in of, just going to work, paying bills, and doing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
I needed to find a way to make more because I knew I had the ability to make more, and I just needed to find a way to capitalize on that. But like you said, so many people discount their time, effort, energy into stuff that that's where people fall short. It seems like more and more of that is happening, because they can't really see the importance of the life-changing ability that you may have. You can't really see it because you're so bogged down mentally, and you got to be mentally open, and you just have to land on stuff that aligns with your God-given abilities. I mean, you have to figure out what you know and what you don't know, so therefore you have to practice, step outside the box, do something different to really figure out, test your abilities.
Yeah.
And your mental thinking, and just.
I always thought that, or I came to the conclusion that, fear of failure, fear of not being successful, prevents people sometimes from taking the action, whatever it may be, right? But when in fact, that may be true, they're like, I'm just not going to take an action because, I don't want to lose or, not be successful. So they don't take advantage of the opportunity. But what they're really robbing themselves of is the experience that one would go through, an unknown experience, right? And then the result of that, which 9 times out of 10, in my opinion, or I don't want to say 9 times out, an awful lot of the time, there's really success on the other side of that. So they're robbing themselves of that ultimate success. And, and it's like, failing 5 times and getting up and doing it again the 6th time, may be successful. I don't want to say 9 times out of 10, but it's very easy to do nothing. It's difficult for me to have some self-reflection and do something different even though I may fail, right? But I may win too. And just that experience of stretching yourself, that's where success is, whatever.
It's definitely about the journey.
Yeah.
It's more about the journey than it is the goal.
Yeah.
It's all the stuff in between that you win a battle, you lose a battle. It's kind of like if you get, it ain't how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. So
that's right.
You just keep fighting and getting better. And that's kind of what life's all about, really, is just keep fighting. Mm-hmm. Eventually you'll win.
just start out in the right direction, right? And then make minor adjustments along the way.
Right.
All right. So, all right, sir. Anything else you want to add to it?
I think we about covered everything I had in mind. And then there's some stuff that I'm going to be like, man, I wish I'd have brought this up.
Of course.
But it's all good. I was blown away to be asked to come on the show, and maybe I added some value, something along the way that other people can learn from, and that's what it's all about.
I think you did, and I'm very appreciative that you came here and accepted the invitation. And originally, and I know I said it before, and I even maybe said it earlier. I originally started releasing videos that had been recorded at different events that I was speaking at. They were not recorded to release, on social media. Social media wasn't even a thing for me, 15 years ago, And so we, started releasing them. And I always thought to myself, well, when I first discovered this idea, when I was exposed to the infinite banking concept, you had to go literally travel somewhere, wherever Nelson was speaking and being hosted by someone, wherever in the country. I mean, the idea of even being exposed, the possibility of even being exposed to an event that he was going to be speaking at was a very narrow, limited, almost happenstance opportunity that, you should go hear this guy, he's over here. And then coming forward, 10, 12, 13 years later, it's like, what would have the value been if I was able to go to social media, YouTube, and listen to Nelson or somebody talk about the infinite banking concept, the idea that you could become your own banker and control the banking function? I'm like, dang, that would be powerful, I think. Well, I don't know. I mean, I got a face for radio. I get it. I'm not a professional speaker. And then I thought, and Nelson was the first guest, maybe the second guest, and then David, and then I think Ori. And that was kind of come along happenstance. He was going to be in town. And so we like, hey, you want to come by and do a podcast? And he said, yeah. And I was just thinking that, man, what if I had the opportunity 20 years ago to listen to somebody's experience of becoming exposed to the infinite banking concept and just sharing their experience? I mean, what would that value be? So that was kind of the genesis of having, guests come on and just share their story. And man, I think it's a home run for me, because I think there's, just it adds to the good, just it adds to the opportunity of someone, to even be exposed to this idea without click here, sell this, buy this, do this, or do that. They can listen to it on the way to work in the middle of the night or not. Right. Or like, no, I'm not even interested in that. So I think it's a big deal. I think it's very valuable for you to come here and share. And I promise you there'll be tons of people. It's like, wow, Jamie's cool. Bring him back. And they'll hear things that you had no idea that you'd even think that they would hear. You know what I mean? They're very cool listeners. Anyway.
It's definitely all about the you and me level. And that's where it begins. And I think the variety of people that you have on your show, it's creates for a lot of aha moments. I think for a lot of people is having different backgrounds and hearing the experiences and their thought processes with all that is pretty cool. So it's definitely helped me along my way, hearing even how Michael does things, or Earl Muhammad, or Blake, or all those guys were awesome podcasters. I mean, they got in here and just hit home runs.
Yeah. So, and you know what? They're not professional speakers. Most of them, I'm just saying, they're just everyday all-American people, doing what they think is best for themselves and their family. And then they stumbled on it and exposed to it and then implemented it. And then they're just sharing. There was no expectation, other than I'm just going to talk and tell my story. And then to, make it available to, the big wide world. I mean, who wants to do that? Oh yeah, I want to go talk to, and put it out on, social media. I mean, so it's a big deal for me. And I think, I'm just very appreciative that you would spend your time to come and share, so thank you.
And I came here on purpose. I wasn't visiting anybody else or anything like that. For whatever it is. I know a lot of people, shoot, man, it's an honor to come over here and do this. It's out of my norm, as far as my comfort zone. I'm way out there, but it's something that I'm passionate about. So I'm definitely willing to be more involved with it. So I think the more people that can learn about this IBC and how it works, and I mean, it's infinite. Banking is named that on purpose, so yeah. It's no limitations with it. It's whatever you want it to be, really, is how it works in your life.
I agree. I mean, I heard it, I was told, and probably by my daddy, it's like, the limitations that exist between your ears, and that's where it's at. You get beyond that, there'll be an improvement, All right, Jamie, look, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you very much, and I appreciate you listening, and wish you the best.
Thank you for joining us on the Banking with Life podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe and click on that little notification bell. Otherwise, join us on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher for weekly content.